Have you ever avoided trying, not because you didn't care, but because you were afraid of failing? Have you delayed decisions, waiting to feel more confident, more prepared, more ready than you ever actually feel? Many people don't stop because they lack ability. They stop because failure feels like a threat, not to success, but to identity. And today, we're exploring why fear of failure feels so heavy, and how to move forward without letting it define you. Fear of failure rarely comes from the event itself. It comes from interpretation. Failure becomes dangerous when it's connected to self-worth, to belonging, to identity. At its core, fear of failure isn't about making mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. It's about what failure means. When failure is interpreted as proof of inadequacy, of weakness, of not being enough, the mind treats it as an emotional threat. And once something feels threatening, avoidance becomes protection. For many people, failure feels personal because success was once tied to acceptance, praise, approval, safety. Over time, achievement became proof of value, and failure became something to hide from. So when identity becomes linked to performance, failure no longer feels like an external event. It feels like a verdict. Even small setbacks can trigger shame, self-doubt, or fear of rejection, not because the mistake was severe, but because the meaning attached to it feels overwhelming. Healing begins when we separate who we are from what we do. Outcomes reflect actions, timing, strategy, not worth. Fear of failure quietly narrows life. Decisions stop being guided by meaning and start being filtered through safety. You may choose what's predictable, what's low risk, what's less visible, not because it fulfills you, but because it feels emotionally safer. Over time, avoidance accumulates. Missed opportunities, unspoken ideas, unlived versions of yourself. And many people eventually realize something painful. The regret of not trying often weighs heavier than the pain of failing. Perfectionism is often misunderstood. It's not about high standards. It's about emotional protection. By controlling outcomes, the mind hopes to eliminate risk, mistakes, criticism, disappointment. But perfectionism creates pressure, not safety. When standards are unrealistically high, progress becomes fragile. Starting feels heavy. Finishing feels exhausting. Sharing feels dangerous. Letting go of perfection doesn't mean caring less. It means allowing growth to be imperfect and therefore sustainable. Confidence grows through experience, not control. Fear of failure doesn't disappear through force. It softens through understanding. When failure is no longer tied to identity, it loses its power. Growth requires uncertainty. Learning requires imperfection. You don't move forward by eliminating fear. You move forward by not letting fear decide. Failure isn't a definition, it's information. And when mistakes are allowed, resilience replaces fear, and movement becomes possible again. Can failure exist without shame? Yes, but shame is learned, not automatic. Shame develops when failure is interpreted as a reflection of character, worth, or personal inadequacy. Over time, culture, upbringing, and past experiences teach the mind that mistakes mean not enough. But when failure is approached with curiosity instead of judgment, everything changes. Curiosity asks, what didn't work? What can I learn? What can I try differently? Without harsh self-judgment, the nervous system stays more regulated. Failure becomes information, not a verdict. And when shame is removed, resilience grows, confidence stabilizes, and progress becomes sustainable. Self-compassion creates emotional safety within. When mistakes are met with understanding instead of criticism, the nervous system receives a powerful message: failure is survivable. And when you trust that you will treat yourself with kindness, regardless of outcome, taking risks becomes possible. Fear doesn't disappear, but it becomes manageable. Self-compassion doesn't eliminate uncertainty. It changes your relationship with it. Fear becomes something you can carry, not something that controls your actions. Growth becomes sustainable because safety exists inside, not in perfect outcomes. Self-trust shifts focus from controlling outcomes to trusting your ability to respond. It means believing you can handle whatever results arise, even disappointing ones. With self-trust, failure is no longer catastrophic. It becomes part of lived experience, something to process, learn from, and integrate. Uncertainty feels less threatening because adaptation is trusted. Self-trust transforms fear of failure from a stopping force into a manageable companion on the path of growth. Fear of failure doesn't disappear through pressure. Pushing too hard often strengthens resistance. Fear softens through patience, understanding, and gradual exposure. Small, intentional risks teach the nervous system that discomfort is tolerable and mistakes are survivable. Reflection replaces judgment. Courage grows through repetition, not urgency. Progress is allowed to be imperfect, and confidence develops naturally when fear is met with steadiness instead of force. Overcoming fear of failure doesn't mean becoming fearless. It means redefining the role failure plays. Failure becomes part of learning, not something to avoid at all costs. Mistakes guide adjustment. They don't signal the end of worth. Action no longer depends on perfect confidence. It depends on willingness. Failure doesn't block growth. Fear does. And when fear no longer dictates decisions, movement resumes, resilience strengthens, and confidence grows through experience. This is exactly why AI Virtual Psychologist was created, to offer a supportive space where fear can be explored without shame, without pressure, and without unrealistic expectations. Through guided conversations and reflective prompts, the app helps users understand fear of failure, not eliminate it. Growth is treated as a process, not a performance. If fear of failure has been holding you back, support is available at your own pace.